Hello, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the joint U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA Fisheries public informational meeting and hearing for the green sea turtle in the Atlantic. We're going to give folks a few minutes here to join the meeting, and then we'll begin the PowerPoint presentation shortly, so please stay tuned. I do want to note that closed captioning is available by selecting the closed caption icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you're using the Zoom web portal or Zoom app on your computer. Again, welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. We're going to give folks a few more minutes to join the meeting, so please stay tuned and we'll start the presentation shortly. Again, I do want to note that closed captioning is available by selecting the closed caption icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen if you're using the Zoom web portal or Zoom app on your computer. Next slide, please. Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with our meeting tonight. I'd like to thank you all for joining us. We appreciate your time and participation. My name is Megan Stone with Environmental Management and Planning Solutions, Inc., a contractor for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and I'm going to be one of your meeting facilitators tonight. Additionally, I have members of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA Fisheries with me on the meeting who will be introduced in a moment. We do have the expected agenda on the screen for tonight's meeting. We'll go over some brief ground rules, and then we'll have information presentations from both the service and NOAA's fisheries, which should last approximately 30 minutes. We'll then have a 30-minute question and answer session, followed by a 60-minute public comment session. The meeting will then end at 9 p.m. Atlantic time. Next slide, please. This meeting will include live Spanish translation. Attendees are welcome to provide questions or comments in Spanish. To access language interpretation, in your webinar toolbar, click the interpretation icon, which looks like a little globe. You'll click the language icon and select the language you would like to hear. You can choose Spanish as an option. And then to hear interpreted language only, click Mute Original Audio. We'll leave this up on the screen for a moment just to let folks see. Original audio should be selected if you would like to hear English. Spanish should be selected if you would like to hear Spanish. The English option will be where any comments received in Spanish are translated to English. All right, we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Now that we've explained how to access Zoom language interpretation, before we get started with the presentation, I'll go over some ground rules. First, this meeting is being recorded as part of the project record, and a recording will be posted to the USFWS website. Second, your microphones and videos will be turned off for the duration of the meeting tonight. You will only be unmuted if and when I unmute you during the question and answer session if you are a phone caller, or verbal public comment portion on the meeting if you are commenting. Questions will be addressed during the question and answer session after the PowerPoint presentations. We will do our best to address the questions in the order they come in to allow everyone an opportunity to voice their questions. Instructions for how to submit questions electronically during the session will be provided after the presentations. We will allow those joining by computer to submit questions electronically and those joining by phone to submit questions verbally, as they do not have access to the chat feature to submit questions electronically. We do ask that you keep any questions related to the scope of the presentations. As I mentioned earlier, this evening we'll have presentations from the service and NOAA Fisheries. At any point during the presentations, you may chat us your questions. Questions will be logged and we'll provide responses during the Q&A portion of the meeting. After the question and answer session, we will then move on to the virtual public hearing portion of the meeting, during which we will accept verbal public comments from participants who have joined tonight's meeting. If you registered before the start time of tonight's meeting and indicated that you wanted to offer a verbal public comment tonight, you are on our list of pre-registered commenters. We will call on pre-registered commenters in the order of registration. If you registered after the meeting started, we'll do our best to reserve some time for you to have an opportunity to offer your verbal public comment this evening. If we have time remaining after we've gone through our list of pre-registered commenters, we will open the verbal public comment portion of the meeting up to anyone who would like to offer a verbal public comment, regardless of whether they checked the yes box when registering. If you do not get the opportunity to offer your verbal public comment tonight, written public comments can be submitted electronically or via hard copy, and we'll provide that information in a little bit. And finally, if you do experience any tech issues with Zoom, please use the chat box to message hosts and panelists, and a member of our team will reach out to you. Next slide, please. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Nikki Colangelo, Endangered Species Classification and Recovery Supervisor, for introductions.
Thanks, Megan. Welcome everybody to our public hearing tonight, an informational meeting. On behalf of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, as well as NOAA Fisheries, we're really glad that you could join us tonight. We have quite a team of people from Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA, so I'm going to be introducing everybody so you know who is part of our team and who is joining to help answer questions and give parts of the presentations. From U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and I'm in our Florida Ecological Services office. We also have Gail Martin, a fish and wildlife biologist from our Florida office. We have Karen Frucci, also in our Florida office. She is our Southeast Sea Turtle Coordinator, and will be giving the first part of the presentation. We also have Heidi Crowell, fish and wildlife biologist, who is our project manager for this proposed critical habitat role for the Fish and Wildlife Service side. From our Caribbean field office, we have Jan Zagara, fish and wildlife biologist. We also have Jose Cruz Burgos, the Threatened and Endangered Species Program Coordinator in that office. And then finally, from Fish and Wildlife Service, we have Christy Young from our Southeast Regional Office. She's a deputy manager in our Division of Conservation and Classification. And last but certainly not least, we have Jennifer Schultz from NOAA Fisheries, who is leading the marine portion of the proposed critical habitat for their Office of Protected Resources at NOAA Fisheries in their headquarters office. And with that, I will turn it over to Karen to start the presentation.
Welcome, everyone. On behalf of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the managers and staff within our regional and field offices, including our Florida and Caribbean field offices. This presentation is a short summary of the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service's green turtle proposed critical habitat within the North Atlantic Distinct Population Segment, or DPS, and the South Atlantic Distinct Population Segment. Next slide, please. The colored band across the length of the world map on this slide delineates northern and southern limits of the green sea turtle's range, clearly showing it as a circumglobal species. Most of its range is concentrated in tropical areas where seagrasses and seaweed are abundant. However, this species does extend into subtropical and temperate areas. The green sea turtle's range is further subdivided into 11 segments, which are the 11 distinct population segments, or DPSs, that were delineated in our final listing rule that published in the Federal Register on April 6, 2016. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service proposed critical habitat designation is focused on the 5 DPSs with nesting habitat in the United States, its territories, and its commonwealths, as well as basking habitat solely within the Hawaiian archipelago. These 5 areas are identified by 5 black stars on the map, and NOAA's proposed in-water critical habitat, which will be summarized after this presentation, is focused on those same DPSs with black stars, as well as the East Pacific DPS on the map with a white star. Today, this informational session and public hearing are focused specifically on the North Atlantic DPS and the South Atlantic DPS. Next slide, please. Critical habitat is defined by the Endangered Species Act as 2 different but associated parts. First, critical habitat is specific areas within the geographical area occupied by the species at the time of listing that contain physical or biological features essential to the conservation of the species and that may require special management considerations or protection. And second, critical habitat can also be specific areas outside the geographical area occupied by the species if the agency determines that the area itself is essential for the conservation of the species. Critical habitat is only designated within U.S. jurisdictions. For the green sea turtle, we are only proposing critical habitat within U.S. jurisdictions in specific areas that are occupied by the species and that are essential to the conservation of the species and may require special management considerations or protection. The regulatory significance of critical habitat is that federal agencies must consult on any actions they permit, fund, or carry out that may affect critical habitat to ensure that such actions do not destroy or adversely modify it. Next slide, please. The physical or biological features essential to the conservation of green turtles in the Atlantic are focused on sand characteristics in terrestrial areas where nesting, incubation, hatching, hatchling emergence, and beach transit occur. Types of beach characteristics that green turtles need are extratidal or dry sandy beaches from the mean high water line to inland areas of beach. These areas must include relatively unimpeded wet and dry sand nearshore or nearshore access areas from the ocean to the beach for nesting females and from the beach to the ocean for both post-nesting females and hatchlings. Some drier sand areas are also necessary above the mean high water line to avoid inundation frequently by high tides. It typically extends inland to the toe of the secondary dune if present, or to develop structures, whichever comes first. And this can include areas with vegetation. Sufficient darkness was also considered because it is important to nesting turtles for orientation to nesting areas and for post-nesting females and hatchling orientation to the ocean. Areas we have identified as proposed critical habitat for the North and South Atlantic DPSs are those that are considered high-density green turtle nesting areas. Next slide, please. The range of the North Atlantic DPS is from South Texas around Florida and up the eastern U.S. seaboard to New York, where nesting is extremely rare, as well as the Caribbean region and Puerto Rico. The most important beaches with the highest nesting densities and the only proposed critical habitat for the North Atlantic DPS are in Florida and Puerto Rico. In this map, the white lettered regions and lines in Florida delineate the state's management units that take into consideration the best available science on genetic diversity and geographical influences on green turtles for the state. As a whole, this DPS includes a total of 33 proposed critical habitat units marked as the yellow segments or spots on the map, 23 of which are spread across Florida and 10 within Puerto Rico. The proposed critical habitat area across both these regions totals 5,974 acres, and approximately 81% of this area overlaps existing designated critical habitat for a variety of threatened and endangered species, including loggerhead, leatherback, and hawksbill sea turtles, piping plover, and many more plant and animal species. Jan Zagara of the Caribbean Field Office will now describe proposed critical habitat in the Puerto Rico portions of the North Atlantic DPS.
Thank you, Karen. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Zooming in to Puerto Rico, this area includes 10 out of the 33 proposed units for the North Atlantic DPS. From east to west, Vieques Island has most of the units with 7, followed by 2 units in southeast Puerto Rico and 1 contiguous unit for Mona Island of the west coast. Most of the units in Vieques Island are within the Vieques National Wildlife Refuge. Next slide. For the South Atlantic DPS, the only U.S. jurisdiction is the U.S. Virgin Islands. Within the 3 main islands and numerous islets that comprise this territory, only one of the 3 main large islands, St. Croix, has critical nesting sites for green sea turtle, in addition to the small Buck Island Reef National Monument on the northeastern end of the island. Proposed critical habitat for this DPS includes a total of 8 units, again marked as yellow segments or spots on the map. The total area proposed is 117 acres, approximately 27% of which overlaps existing designated critical habitat for 2 federally endangered species, the leatherback sea turtle and an endemic succulent called Agave egarciana, or the St. Croix agave. Next slide. In addition to any comments provided during the public hearing tonight, we can accept comments received or postmarked on or before October 17, 2023. Anyone wishing to provide comments can submit them electronically using the federal e-rulemaking portal, but they must be received by 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time on October 17th. Comments on our U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service terrestrial proposed critical habitat designation should be submitted to the docket number FWS R4ES 2022-0164, as you can see on the screen. Comments submitted by hard copy through the U.S. mail can be submitted to the Falls Church, Virginia address identified in the comment submission section of the proposed rule. More information about our terrestrial proposed rule is available on our website at the first address on this slide. And now our NOAA colleague, Jennifer Schultz, will present on the marine proposed critical habitat.
Thanks, Jen. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny Schultz, and I'm here to talk about the NOAA Fisheries proposal for marine critical habitat for the Atlantic DPSs of green sea turtle DPS. DPSs, plural. So as you can see from this map, it's the same map that Karen showed you, our DPS map, and we started with the boundaries of the DPSs, and those are marked in gray. We then looked at the areas, or the in-water areas, that are under U.S. jurisdiction. Those are the areas within the U.S. Exclusive Economic Zone, or EEZ. Those are shown in purple and pink. And from this, we are proposing to designate critical habitat shown in the green and pink on this map. And I'll tell you how we came up with this proposal. Next slide, please. So we began our process by identifying the features essential to the conservation of the Atlantic green turtle DPSs in the marine environment. We reviewed the best available science on the life history of these DPSs. And basically what we found is that green sea turtles need to reproduce, they need to forage and rest, and they need to migrate between those reproductive areas and those foraging and resting areas. So we came up with these essential features, starting with reproduction. Reproduction occurs in the waters off of the beaches that the U.S. Fish and Wildlife is designating as critical habitat. In these waters, adult sea turtles mate, the females transit to and from the nesting beaches, and the females also internest, which means they find areas in nearshore waters to rest, to reovulate, which means to create new eggs, and to avoid mating with males. They then return to the nest to nest. It also includes areas, the reproductive areas include waters that the post-hatchlings use to transit off the nesting beaches where they begin their swim frenzy. And all of this occurs off the U.S. Fish and Wildlife proposed nesting beaches from the mean high water line to 20 meters depth. After mating and nesting, adults migrate to foraging areas using unobstructed migratory corridors. Those are also located between the mean high water line and 20 meters depth. As I said, green sea turtles also need to forage and rest. Post-hatchlings and surface pelagic juveniles forage, rest, thermoregulate, grow, and develop in sargassum habitats. These are surface pelagic habitats, and they occur from 10 meters depth to the U.S. EEZ. Older turtles, such as larger juveniles, subadults, and adults, forage on seagrass, macroalgae, and invertebrates. They rest, thermoregulate, and hide from predators in underwater refugia, including corals, ledges, worm rock reefs, and man-made structures. This benthic foraging and resting area occurs in waters from the mean high water line to 20 meters depth. Next slide, please. For the North Atlantic DPS, we are proposing to designate areas containing those essential features as critical habitat. The sargassum habitat is shown on this map by the pink dashed line. It occurs from 10 meters depth to the U.S. EEZ. It contains the surface pelagic foraging and resting features. This area is essentially the same as the sargassum habitat that's already been designated for the loggerhead sea turtle. The only difference is that it also includes the northeast Gulf of Mexico, and that's because we have new data that shows that post-hatchling and small juvenile green sea turtles use these sargassum habitats in the northeast Gulf of Mexico. So in green, you'll see the proposed marine critical habitat from the mean high water line to 20 meters depth. In Florida, these areas contain the reproductive, migratory, and benthic foraging and resting features. In Texas and North Carolina, these areas contain the benthic foraging and resting features. And in Puerto Rico, these areas contain the reproductive features off of the nesting beaches that Jan showed you, and the benthic and foraging and resting features, and that's off the northeast coast of Puerto Rico Island. This map does not show the areas that we are proposing to exclude from critical habitat or not designate. We are proposing to exclude areas that contain the benthic foraging and resting features, but support a low density or abundance of green sea turtles. We found that the economic impacts of designating these areas outweighed the benefits of designating these areas. Based on your comments and other information that we gather between now and the final rule, we may exclude other areas due to economic, national security, or other impacts. We may exempt areas owned, controlled by, or designated for use by the Department of Defense if we determine that their integrated natural resource management plans provide a benefit for in-water green turtles. Next slide, please. We are also proposing to designate marine critical habitat for the South Atlantic DPS in waters from the mean high water line to 20 meters depth in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Waters off St. Croix contain the reproductive features off the nesting beaches that Jan showed you in his presentation, and they also contain the benthic foraging and resting features. Waters off St. Thomas and St. John contain the benthic foraging and resting features. Next slide, please. So what does all of this proposed critical habitat mean to you? Well, like Karen said, critical habitat is the habitat that's essential to the conservation of these DPSs. It creates a regulatory requirement for federal agencies, and that means that they have to ensure that any action they permit, fund, or carry out is not likely to destroy or adversely modify critical habitat. But what we want you to know is that these are not protected areas. You can still boat, fish, swim in these areas in the water, and on the beaches you can still walk or do any other your recreational activities. The only difference is for federal agencies, if they have an action, then they must consult with us and ensure that that action does not adversely modify or destroy critical habitat. Next slide, please. So we are seeking your input on these proposals. We are especially interested in data or traditional knowledge on these areas or green turtles' use of these areas. As Jen said, please submit your comments online via regulations.gov and using our docket numbers. You can provide your comments tonight starting at 7 p.m. or you can mail your comments to the U.S. Fish and Wildlife or NOAA Fisheries at the addresses that are included on our web pages. And just a reminder, just like Jan said, please get all of your comments to us by October 17th, 2023. Next slide, please. This is the timeline for our rulemaking process. So we published our rules in the Federal Register on July 19th, 2023. We're having our informational meeting right now at 7 o'clock. We will start our public hearing where you can provide your comments. Then we will review all of the comments submitted. We'll also review all newly available data, and we will write our final rules. These draft final rules will be reviewed by the federal, they will undergo a federal interagency review, and then we will send our final rules to the Federal Register to be published by July 19th, 2024. Thank you for your attention, and Megan, I'm going to send it back to you.
Thank you, Jenny, and thank you everyone for the presentations. At this time, if you have a question and you're using the Zoom web platform or Zoom app, you can chat us those questions. We're going to move into a 30-minute question and answer session. As a reminder, the intent of this question and answer session is to answer any questions related to the affected species, general proposed critical habitat, or the rulemaking process. We ask that you keep any questions related to the presentations, and we'll do our best to address your questions in the order they're received. As I said, you can go ahead and chat those questions to us now. If you have a question, you'll see at the bottom of your Zoom screen a chat box. You can chat your questions to hosts and panelists. You may need to exit your full screen view in Zoom to see the chat icon. I've included a graphic on the screen of where you can find that icon. You can then type your question in the chat box and please send it to hosts and panelists. We will read the question aloud for all participants to hear, and a team member will respond to your question aloud. Again, we'll try to answer questions in the order they're received. Please note there may be a pause between asking your question and a team member answering your question. If you are calling in through the phone and you have a question, please press *9 to raise your hand to let staff know you have a question. When it is your turn, I will identify you by the last 4 digits of your phone number. I will then unmute you so that you can ask your question. Again, a U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service or a NOAA Fisheries team member will then respond to your question aloud. You may be muted on your end. If that is the case, we will prompt you to unmute yourself by pressing *6. If you submitted a question during registration for this meeting, please note that there is no need to resubmit that question. We have those questions and we will begin answering those now. So with that, our first question is, what effect will the proposed critical habitat have on existing programmatic biological opinions? And we'll turn that over to Nikki.
Thanks, Megan, and thanks for submitting this question. If the actions covered by those programmatic biological opinions are likely to affect proposed green turtle critical habitat, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers or any other federal applicant or federal agency may request a conference or reinitiation of the Section 7 consultation.
Thank you, Nikki. We'll move on to our next question. How will this be enforced? And we'll turn that over to Heidi.
Thanks. Critical habitat is not a protected area, and as such, enforcement is not needed. The regulatory significance of critical habitat is that federal agencies must consult on their actions that may affect critical habitat to ensure that such actions do not destroy or adversely modify it. Once critical habitat is designated, federal agencies must consult with us to ensure that any activities they authorize, fund, or carry out are not likely to destroy or adversely modify the critical habitat.
Thank you, Heidi. Our next question is, in general, is beach and dune restoration considered a good practice to preserve turtle habitat when done correctly? And we'll turn that over to Karen.
Thank you for the question. The service has been working with agencies on these types of projects and will continue to provide existing project recommendations, including in areas of critical habitat. These types of activities do provide a benefit to green turtles and other listed species. Maintaining stretches of beach habitat and other coastal habitats is extremely important for green sea turtles and other wildlife that depend upon them. The service is committed to working with these agencies and communities to use various Endangered Species Act tools and flexibilities to support coastal resiliency.
Thank you, Karen. All right. Our next question is, will the rules include protection of known basking beaches for the Hawaiian green sea turtle in the main Hawaiian Islands? And we'll turn that over to Heidi.
Yeah, we already conducted a public hearing for the Central North Pacific DPS, which covers the Hawaiian archipelago, but yes, basking areas are included with nesting areas that are proposed as critical habitat for that DPS.
All right, thank you, Heidi. Our next question is also for you, and we went over this a bit in the presentations, but the question is, what are locations of proposed critical habitat?
As presented in our PowerPoint presentations, the Fish and Wildlife Service is proposing critical habitat within 5 DPSs within the U.S. and its territories and commonwealths. And NOAA is proposing critical habitat within these same units, as well as the Eastern Pacific DPS. Those areas are described in detail in the unit description portion of the rule, as well as descriptions and maps in the proposed regulation promulgation section of the rule.
Thank you again, Heidi. All right, our next question is for Jan. The question is, will these protected sites also get infrastructure upgrade funding from the federal government too? And again, we'll turn that over to Jan.
Thank you. Critical habitat designations are not going to enable more funding opportunities, nor will it preclude any funding opportunities. Designating critical habitat is a reminder to federal agencies of their responsibility to protect the important characteristics of critical habitat areas when implementing federally funded activities, including infrastructure activities.
Thank you, Jan. Our next question is, how will this critical habitat impact Section 7 consultation timelines? Will NOAA hire more staff to facilitate these actions? And we'll turn that over to Jenny.
Thanks, Megan. NOAA Fisheries will not hire more staff specifically because of this designation. However, we are in the process of hiring additional Section 7 staff. We don't think that this designation will impact Section 7 consultation timelines because federal agencies have been consulting with us on their actions effects on green sea turtles for decades. Our analyses include indirect effects, such as effects to their habitat and features. Best management practices already in place to minimize these indirect effects are the same as those that would be recommended in a conference or a consultation. Therefore, while there are federal actions that may affect critical habitat, once it's designated, it may require reinitiation of Section 7 consultation, but we can also perform a conference on such actions. And that means we can perform the effects analysis prior to the final designation of critical habitat. Like I said, we don't think that these conferences or consultations are going to be very time consuming because we've already considered the indirect effects on habitat. And so we can batch many of these conferences or consultations on these actions.
Thank you, Jenny. We've got another question coming up here for you, which is, how will this rule impact fisheries in Texas?
Thank you. Yeah, so NOAA Fisheries has a conference plan in place, and that is how we plan to complete our conferences on all federal fisheries prior to the final designation of critical habitat for green sea turtles. This means that NOAA Fisheries Protected Resources staff will confer with NOAA Fisheries Sustainable Fisheries staff, that's the federal agency, to analyze the effects of these federal fisheries on proposed critical habitat. And then once we finalize the critical habitat, NOAA Fisheries will adopt the conference findings into letters of concurrence or biological opinions, and that means that there won't be any interruption of regulatory compliance. And as I just mentioned, this should be a quick process because we have already looked at the indirect effects when we did our consultations on the species.
Thank you, Jenny. Our next question is, where are the proposed terrestrial and marine expanded areas? And we'll first start with Gail for a response.
Thank you. In developing terrestrial critical habitat units, we included internesting beaches adjacent to high density nesting beaches to support placement of multiple nests by individual turtles across a beach within a single season. As mentioned previously, the designated critical habitat is described in detail in the unit description portion of the rule, as well as presented in maps in the proposed regulation promulgation section of the rule. And Jenny can respond regarding marine critical habitat.
Yeah, NOAA Fisheries isn't proposing to designate any expanded areas. We're just proposing to designate the areas from the mean high water line to 20 meters depth off the nesting beaches. But we are also proposing to designate migratory corridors in Florida, also foraging and resting benthic foraging areas in Florida. So our proposed critical habitat includes all waters off the coast of Florida from the mean high water line to 20 meters depth.
Thank you both for those responses. Our next question is, will airport property be exempt from critical habitat designation? We'll turn that over to Heidi. And Heidi,
Critical
Heidi,
habitat, oh, sorry, yeah.
no, go ahead. I was just gonna make sure you were able to unmute.
Critical habitat is designed to protect the essential physical and biological features of a landscape and essential features in the appropriate quantity and spatial arrangement that a species needs to survive and reproduce and ultimately be conserved. It also protects access to these features. Fish and Wildlife Service rules and this green sea turtle proposed critical habitat designation excludes developed areas such as buildings, roads, airports, parking lots, etc. And there are components that could not possibly contain or support the physical or biological features.
Thank you, Heidi. All right, our next question is, since nesting and hatching are normally nighttime activities, should those beaches be restricted from white artificial lighting? And we'll turn that over to Karen.
Thank you for the question. When artificial lighting may impact green turtles, the Fish and Wildlife Service would be recommending minimization or protection measures related to artificial lighting for consultations with the federal agencies that consult with us, as indicated in our special management considerations for protection section of our proposed rule.
Thank you for that response. We just have a few more pre-registered questions here, and then we'll switch over to some live questions we've been receiving. Our next question is, how will this be implemented in Puerto Rico? Will there be access to participation of the general public? And we'll turn that over to Jan.
Thank you. If the proposed critical habitat is finalized, federal agencies would be required to ensure that their actions are not likely to destroy or adversely modify critical habitat as part of the consultations under Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act. The agency will continue to work with federal, Commonwealth, and local partners to conserve the species throughout its range. For the second part of the question, we're assuming that the question is referring to access to the critical habitat designation lands. Critical habitat designations do not set up a preserve or refuge. Therefore, access and general use of these areas does not change with the federal designation of critical habitat.
Thank you, Jan. Our next question is, if there's new data on the range of sargassum habitat, why hasn't the loggerhead rule been revised prior to this ruling? If there's new data on the range of sargassum habitat for juvenile sea turtles, will it be applied to loggerhead turtles as well? And we'll turn that over to Jenny.
Thanks, Megan. So the new data we're talking about come from Dr. Mansfield's lab. They were published in 2021. And these new data demonstrate that post-hatchling and small juvenile green sea turtles use sargassum habitat in the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. Because the focus of this hearing and the rulemaking and the biological report were all on proposed green sea turtle critical habitat, we didn't examine that data for loggerhead sea turtles. And loggerhead sea turtle critical habitat was designated back in 2014. Megan?
Thanks, Jenny. Our next question is, what strategies for engaging communities in Puerto Rico do you propose? And we'll turn that over to Jan.
Thank you. We're engaging with the public through this public hearing and through the opportunity to comment at regulations.gov. Again, if the proposed critical habitat is finalized, federal agencies would be required to ensure that their actions are not likely to destroy or adversely modify critical habitat as part of the consultations under Section 7 of the Endangered Species Act. and the agencies will continue to work with federal, Commonwealth, and local partners to conserve the species throughout its range.
Thank you, Jan. All right, we'll move into some questions we've been receiving through the chat. Our first is, can you provide some examples of activities that you may consider as adversely modifying or impacting the foraging feature, especially in Texas waters? And we'll turn that over to Jenny.
Okay, so thank you for this question. So part of this question is asking about adverse modification or destruction of critical habitat. And that's a pretty high bar. If you notice on the map, there was a lot of foraging and resting critical habitat. And so to adversely modify or destroy that habitat would have to be a really huge action, right? Something that, think of something as big as the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, for example. Maybe something that big would have the potential to result in an adverse modification or destruction of critical habitat determination. And so, yeah, that's the best example I could come up with. It would have to be a very large, very impactful action.
Thank you, Jenny. And we did have one question in the chat noting that one of our links was broken. So we'll go ahead and repost the link for the NOAA project page. And then we'll move on to our next question, which is, what were the economic activities in Louisiana that resulted in the area being excluded as critical habitat? And we'll turn that over to Jenny.
Yeah, thank you for that question too. So again, when we talk about Section 7, like I said before, destruction or adverse modification is it would have to be a very big action. And we're very aware of what actions are out there because the federal agencies have already been consulting with us on the species. So actions that would impact green sea turtles, including we've analyzed the indirect effects on their habitat. So we know what's out there. And when we did this economic analysis, we looked at, okay, so do we think that there are going to be any modifications of these actions? And our answer was, no, we don't, because all of these federal agencies are already doing things like best management practices to minimize their impacts on the sea turtles and on the indirect effects such as the habitat. So what we found was there were administrative costs of doing the conferences, which is before the critical habitat is designated, the final is designated, and also includes reinitiation of consultations. That's what we call it after the critical habitat is finalized. And for Louisiana, we found that the amount of money it would cost to do all this administrative work from the Department of Defense, from EPA, we consult with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, we consult with BOEM, we consult with ourselves, NOAA Fisheries, but the total cost of those administrative costs would be $15,000. And we found that that economic impact outweighed the benefit that was provided because there's not, compared to Florida, compared to Texas, compared to North Carolina, there's not that many sea turtles that are foraging in benthic habitats in Louisiana.
Thank you, Jenny. Our next question is, how have the impacts of global sea level rise been factored into these areas? And we'll let Heidi start on this response.
Thank you. Good question. With regards to sea level rise, critical habitat is designated on the best information available today. The proposed units are focused on those areas with the highest abundance of turtles and nesting areas that contain the physical and biological features essential for the conservation of the species. We did consider sea level rise, and there are no beaches included as proposed critical habitat that are likely to be inundated in the near term future. We and our partners will continue to monitor green turtles into the future, and will be able to consider climate change and sea level rise in ongoing recovery efforts for the species as well.
Thank you, Heidi. And Jenny, did you have anything you'd like to add there?
Sure. The only thing I wanted to add is that you saw our map, but you also heard me say from the mean high water line to 20 meters depth. So with sea level rise, that mean high water line will change and the designation will change. The designation is that language, not just the map. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Our next question is, generally speaking, will there be different considerations from the existing ones for loggerhead in areas that are already designated for loggerhead? That is, should we expect increased regulations for activities within these areas? And we'll turn this over to Karen.
Hello, that's a great question. Right now, the protections that are out there for loggerhead sea turtles within the terms and conditions of our consultations with federal agencies regarding loggerhead critical habitat will be very similar to those for green turtles. And we do have overlapping loggerhead critical habitat with the proposed green turtle segments. And we will also be attentive towards things that green turtles might be slightly more sensitive to towards in regards to lighting, but overall very similar to terms and conditions we have existing for loggerhead critical habitat.
We'll go ahead and move on to one of our next questions. You had mentioned NOAA has a conference plan and will coordinate with NMFS on federal fisheries impacts. But what are the plans to coordinate and assess impacts to state fisheries, as much of the critical habitat designation will occur in state waters? And we'll turn that over to Jenny.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So that's a really important difference about critical habitat. Critical habitat only applies to Section 7 consultations, and Section 7 consultations only apply to federal actions. So if your state fishery is not in any way permitted or funded, and it's not carried out by a federal agency, us, NOAA Fisheries, then critical habitat does not apply to you. So your state permits do not count for the federal permit. It has to be a federal permit or federal funding. Some aquaculture activities might be permitted by the Army Corps of Engineers, and then we would consult with them. But yeah, critical habitat only applies to federal actions.
Thank you, Jenny. All right. Our next question is, the US FWS and FDEP partnered to develop Florida Beach's Habitat Conservation Plan, spending, I believe, over $10 million over many years. The FDEP never adopted the HCP. The HCP, if adopted and implemented, could help protect critical habitat for green marine turtles. Will the US FWS adopt the HCP or refund the federal funding? And we'll turn that over to Nikki or Karen.
Regarding the beach's HCP, until such action is adopted, we will continue to partner in counties where we do have HCPs, including Volusia in Indian River County and others, and we will continue to implement the conservation goals of the beach's HCP within the terms and conditions in existing and future consultations.
Thank you, Karen. All right. Our next question is there a strategy for community outreach in order to protect further breeding and foraging areas for green turtles? And we'll go ahead and turn that over to Jan.
Yes, thank you. We provide outreach on the proposed critical habitat, as well as if the final critical habitat is published, we will provide outreach through our website, through our federal partners, our state partners, and we share that information as well with the local communities. So that would basically be our community outreach strategy for this proposed and final critical habitat.
Thank you, Dan. All right, it looks like we have one more question in the chat and 3 more minutes left in our question and answer session. So we'll answer this last question and then we probably have time for one more question before we move into the public comment portion. So this question is, what kind of stakeholders were collaborated in the drafting of this proposal outside of US FWS and NOAA, specifically local governments, ports, and other economic coast drivers within the Atlantic region? And we'll turn that over to Nikki and then hear from Jenny as well.
Thanks, Megan. Yeah, we coordinated with many partners during the development of this proposal, including other federal agencies, our state and Commonwealth agencies and partners, NGOs, local governments, military installations. There was a lot of outreach efforts made to work with those groups and let them know what we were working on and get their feedback, particularly on potential projects that could be affecting sea turtle critical habitat. And so we reached out and asked for information and had discussions when questions came up and provided some feedback and incorporated that information into our proposed rule. Jenny?
Yeah, thanks, Nikki. We can I just say ditto? Nikki did a great job answering that. Yep, we worked with, as she said, federal agencies, state agencies, academics, just everyone. And I just want to make a plug. I don't know if you can see it. Oh, I can't see it on my screen, but it's our draft biological report, and the link to that is in the chat box. And we have, I don't know, 4 or 5 pages of acknowledgements of all the different people that we worked with to come up with this designation. And so thank you to all those people, and thank you to everyone who participated tonight as well.
Thank you, Jenny. And thank you everyone for those responses. All right, it looks like we have one more question in the chat, so we can try and get that answered, and then we'll be moving on to our comment portion of tonight's meeting.
So I can start. This is Jenny. So I've been talking a lot about sargassum, and we said for a very specific reason, 10-meter depth. And that means we are talking about sargassum offshore, that where the post hatchlings are carried by currents, and that's where they're going to live. And you know, for almost a decade of their life, they're going to live there and forage there, grow and develop. But I do understand that sometimes there are sargassum blooms, and those create a lot of problems on the nesting beaches. And so I think that might be what this question is about. And so I'm wondering if Karen or someone else at Fish and Wildlife might want to address that.
Sure, I can take that. We partner with FWC on addressing any issues that come up on nesting beaches, like episodic wash up of sargassum blooms, to ensure that any entrapped hatchlings are not injured by any kind of activities. In this case, it would be federal activities. So we are actively engaged in any consultations that might address affecting sea turtles that might be affected by these blooms.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. All right, we'll go ahead and move into our public hearing portion of tonight's meeting to receive comments related to the green sea turtle. It's currently 8:01 Atlantic time. So let's get started. Again, this verbal public comment portion of the meeting, along with your comments, is being recorded as part of the official record. As a reminder, your camera and mic control settings are restricted during this time. You will only be able to talk if and when you are unmuted, so please remember to speak when prompted. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and NOAA Fisheries want to hear from all members of the public, so we'll be using the following guidelines today. First, please be mindful of the length of your comment so that everyone who wants to speak has an opportunity to do so. Second, please be respectful of others and their viewpoints. Third, please refrain from using profanity. While passion is welcome in your comment, policy requires that we mute anyone who uses inappropriate language because we are recording this meeting and others may be live streaming. So please avoid inappropriate language. If that does happen, we'll provide a reminder before unmuting that person to try again using words acceptable to all ages. Next slide, please. Perfect. Or actually, sorry, if you could go back one, that would be great. So I'll read through instructions for those participating who indicated they wanted to offer a verbal public comment when they pre-registered for tonight's meeting. We have a list of these participants. We also have a list of the participants who selected maybe when asked if they'd like to comment. As we proceed, comments will be accepted in the order that people registered. Again, if you registered before the start time of tonight's meeting, you're on our pre-registered commenter list. If you are on the commenter list, when it is your turn to provide your comment, we will read your name aloud from the list and display your name on the screen. We will also display the name of the commenter who is next in line. When you hear your name called out, please use the raise hand feature so that we know you are available and ready to provide your comment. You can access the raise hand feature by clicking on either the reactions icon or the participants list icon, which are both located at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If you wave your mouse back and forth across the bottom of your Zoom screen, these icons should appear. You may need to exit out of your full screen Zoom view to see these icons. You can then select the raise hand feature located either in the reactions icon or at the bottom of your participants list. Or if you're calling in through the phone, please press *9 to raise your hand. Once you've raised your hand, you will then be unmuted so that you can provide your comment. You may be double muted. If that is the case, we will prompt you to unmute yourself on your end so that we can hear you. Please spell out your first and last name for the record before providing your verbal public comment. And if you are representing an organization or group, please say so during your comment. All right. After you have provided your comment, we will mute you and move on to our next commenter. Again, once we have worked our way through the current list of pre-registered commenters, if we have time, we will move on to those who registered after the start time of tonight's meeting, who selected they wanted to offer a comment. If we still have time remaining after that, we will then open up the public comment portion of tonight's meeting to anyone who would like to offer a comment who has not already done so. Next slide, please. On the screen, I've included some graphics showing participants where they can access the raise hand feature on Zoom. So we'll pause here for a moment and then we'll get started with our pre-registered commenters and those individuals who said yes when registering for this meeting. Right, next slide, please. And we have some language in Spanish as well. Again, a reminder here, if anyone would like to provide a comment in Spanish, you're welcome to do so. And we'll have translation ongoing throughout that comment portion as well. So we'll move to the next slide. All right, our first pre-registered commenter is Jim Howe. Jim, if you're on and you'd like to provide a comment, please access the raise hand feature. I don't see that we have Jim on our list of participants, but we'll give it a moment in case he is calling in on the phone. And then if not, we'll move on to our next pre-registered commenter, Luana Meyer. All right, I don't see Luana in our list of pre-registered commenters either. And those are the two individuals who indicated that they would like to provide a comment when they registered for the meeting tonight. So now we're going to move on to the folks who selected maybe when registering for this meeting. If you'd no longer like to provide a comment, feel free to let us know and unmute yourself real quick, or you can let us know in the chat. So with that, we'll move on to our first person who said they might want to provide a comment, which is Evan Goldberg. And I don't see Evan in our list of participants, so we will move on to Max Phillips. Max, if you're on, please feel free to raise your hand. Again, for phone callers, you can press *9 to raise your hand. I don't see we have Max either, so we'll move on to Diana Warren. All right, I also don't see Diana on with us. So we'll move on to Michelle Benedict. And I don't see Michelle on with us. So we'll move to Mike Foley. Don't see Mike on either. We'll give it a moment in case he's a phone caller. And again, you can access that raise hand feature if you're on the phone by pressing *9. So we'll give it a moment here, and then we'll also circle back to these folks later on. Our next commenter is Berna Senely. And I don't see that we have Berna on. So we'll move on to Lynn Bowen. Lynn, I see you in our commenter list. If you'd like to provide a comment, please access the raise hand feature. All right, I don't see that Lynn is raising their hand. If you're having any trouble accessing the raise hand feature, please chat us. With that, we'll move on to Harrison McNeil. All right, I see Harrison has his hand up, so we'll go ahead and unmute you now.
Hi, my name is Harrison McNeil with the Port of Corpus Christi Authority in Texas. Want to thank you all for putting this on tonight. We do intend to submit a written comment, but we do not have a public comment at this time to provide. So thank you.
Thanks for letting us know. We appreciate it. I'll go ahead and place you back on mute and lower your hand. And just a reminder that we're moving through our pre-registered list of commenters first, but we'll make sure that we get to everyone who has their hand raised. Our next pre-registered commenter is Abdul Qadir Yusuf. And I don't see Abdul Qadir on our participants list. So we will move on to Erica Houston. And I also don't see Erica on our participants list, but we'll just give it a moment before moving on to Allie Kristen. Oh, I see Erica's got her hand raised. I'll go ahead and unmute you now.
Hi, Hi, good evening, Erica Houston. We also will be providing a comment letter, but no comments at this time.
Thanks for confirming, Erica. Is you back on mute? All right, our next commenter is Allie Kristen. I don't see Allie on the phone with us, or excuse me, I don't see her in our participants list. So we'll go ahead and move on to Kent Wimmer. Kent, if you'd like to provide a comment. Perfect, I see your hand raised. Hi there.
Good evening. My name is Kent Wimmer. I'm Senior Representative for Defenders of Wildlife. We're very happy to see that the service and NOAA is moving forward with establishing critical habitat for green sea turtles. And we support this initiative and keep up the good work. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comment, Kent. Go ahead and place you back on mute and lower your hand. And we'll move on to our next commenter, Alexandra Eppel, who I don't see on our participants list right now. So we'll go ahead and move to Ralph Agnew. All right. I don't see that Ralph is on our participants list, so we'll move to Kathy Fitzpatrick. Kathy, if you'd like to provide a comment, please raise your hand. We'll just give you a moment here. All right, I don't see Kathy is raising their hand, but let us know, Kathy, if you end up wanting to provide a comment. We will move on to Wanda Ortiz, who I don't see in our participants list. So we will move on to Georgia Hancock. Georgia, if you'd like to provide a comment, please raise your hand. Perfect. I'll go ahead and unmute you. Hello.
Hi, thank you for putting this on. Georgia Hancock with the Animal Welfare Institute. And we'll be submitting written comments as well. But again, thanks for putting this on, and we definitely support the critical habitat proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, Georgia. I'll go ahead and mute you. And we will move on to David Duke, who I don't see in our participants list. So we'll move on to Hilda. And I know Hilda's had their hand raised for a bit, so thank you for your patience, Hilda. We'll go ahead and unmute you now. Hello.
Hello, yes, thank you very much. We represent both the south and the north of Puerto Rico. Specifically, we are the Siete Quillas turtle group from the north. We're here with Guillermo Plaza, who's from Tortugueros del Sur in the southern part of the island. We definitely support the Critical Habitat Act, and specifically here in the northern part of the island, we supported for the Escambron, which is it's an area it's a very high density juvenile green turtles aggregation, and they use that area as feeding and development habitat. So it's very important to protect that area. Thank you so very much for doing this, and we are available to help you in any way possible. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Hilda. Appreciate your comment. All right, we'll move to our next person who said maybe to commenting when they registered for this meeting, which is Jennifer Valiolis. Apologies if I mispronounced that. I don't see Jennifer on our list right now. So with that, we've moved through all of the folks who said yes when they registered and saw that question asking whether they wanted to comment. And we've also moved through all of the folks who put maybe for that question. So with that, we'll go ahead and open up the meeting and see if anyone else would like to provide a comment. If you'd like to provide a comment, you can go ahead and raise your hand, and that should be at the bottom of your Zoom screen in the participants list. You can find that, or you can see there's a little raise hand icon. And then if you're calling in through the phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand. We will be on ready to listen to your comments for the next 50 minutes or so, or 40 minutes, my apologies. So we'd love to hear from everyone. And then if you would prefer to provide written comments, we'll post that information again in the chat of where you can submit them electronically on regulations.gov, or the different mailing addresses for NOAA Fisheries and for the service if you'd like to mail in comments. So with that, we'll wait. We'll keep an eye on the participants list and see if anyone new joins us. And we'll just open up the rest of the public hearing portion. Thank you, everyone. All right, just in case we've had anyone new join us, we wanted to remind folks that the service and NOAA Fisheries are available until 8 p.m. Atlantic time to listen to your comments this evening. So if you'd like to provide a comment, you can raise your hand using the little raise hand icon, or if you're calling in through the phone, you can press *9. And we will hop on here around every 5 minutes or so until the end of the meeting, just to provide reminders and see if anyone new has joined us. But thank you all. Hello again, everyone. Just a reminder that the service and NOAA Fisheries will be ready to listen to any comments you might have for the next 25 minutes or so before we do closing remarks. So if you would like to provide a comment, you're welcome to do so. And we're happy to hear comments in Spanish as well. If you'd like to provide a comment, we have those instructions up on the screen for how you can access that raise hand feature. And we'll continue to keep an eye out and see if anyone would like to comment. Hello, everyone. We've got about 10 minutes or so left in our public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. So if anyone has any last minute comments they'd like to provide, please feel free to go ahead and raise your hand. We also have information in the chat on where you can submit comments electronically or where you can mail those comments. And the comment deadline is October 17th. So comments must be submitted by 11:59 p.m. I believe that's Eastern time. With that, we'll go ahead and keep our eyes out for any questions that folks might have or comments, excuse me. All right, everyone, looks like, excuse me, looks like we have about 5 more minutes before we move into closing remarks. So if anyone would like to provide a comment, again, those are instructions are up on the screen, and we will be keeping an eye out to see if we have any hands raised. All right. Thank you, everyone, for your participation this evening. I'll go ahead and turn it over to Nikki for some closing remarks.
Thanks, Megan, and thanks to everyone for hanging in until 8 o'clock on a Tuesday evening. First, I wanted to say thanks to our NOAA Fisheries and Fish and Wildlife Service team that has worked on this proposed critical habitat set of proposed critical habitat rules, and for joining and participating in the hearing and meeting tonight. Thanks to MC and our interpreters for helping facilitate this meeting as well. And finally, and most importantly, thanks for the public participants. Public participation is and comment is a really important part of our rulemaking process. And we really appreciate you guys joining us and providing comments, listening in, asking questions. And any written comments that you'd like to submit, we look forward to receiving those and reviewing those and considering any new information that you might have as we make our final determination. So thanks everyone for joining us, and we hope you have a great evening.